All right, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and as part of the Rankin Technical College Application and Website Development, or AWD1111 Database-Driven Web Development course, I'm doing a series of video presentations. And most of them are off of the Valley of Code website by Mr. Flavio Copes. I've done several from his HTML, CSS, and JavaScript handbook. I've also gone through his Node.js handbook, but I've decided that before going into the React handbook, I've got an older copy of his Express handbook, and I'm going to start going through that now. Before I do that, or before I did that, I guess, whatever, I went out to expressjs.com, which is the Express page here. All right. And I went through most of the stuff that's in there that I considered to be the most important. All right, I'll just leave it at that. So again, this thing that says the Express handbook, it's a little bit dated. And you can see the stuff that's in here. By no means do I profess to be an expert on Express. I've used it quite a bit. But every time you write a new program, you're learning hopefully something. This book does not try to cover everything under the sun related to Express. Okay. All right. A handy reference to all the request object properties and how to use them. All right. So as it says, the request object holds all the HTTP request information. So what would you be most likely to want to get from there? All right, I will tell you, just taking a quick look, the base URL is important to find out exactly where you are. The body is unbelievably important. Contains the data submitted in the request body. Must be parsed and populated manually before you can access it. The path may or may not be important. The parameters oftentimes is important. All right, and some of the rest of them in here as we get going. All right, how to retrieve the get query string parameters using Express. The query string is the part that comes after the URL path and starts with a question mark. So here is an example. And in this case, we have just one parameter. The parameter is name and the value is Flavio. Here we have two different parameters. The parameter is name and the value is Flavio. The parameter is age and the value is 35. So as he says here, how do you get these query string values in Express? All right, it says Express makes it very easy by populating the request.query object for us. So remember, this is what we have to start doing to bring Express into our program. Please also remember that with Express is in the Node Package Manager. It's not part of the core API that comes with Node. All right, so we do that, and this basically says if we just put a dash there, all right, log out the request query. It says the object is filled with a property for each query parameter. If there are none, it's an empty object. This makes it easy to iterate over it using a for loop. Let's try this. So let's grab this. I would guess if we start up a brand new project, we have first Express, so let's put in second Express. All right, and I will put in here a new text document. This will be app.js. Let's open it up. All right. And again, by now, you should start, hopefully you're starting to develop a comfort level here. So what are we doing? Here we are adding Express from the Node Package Manager, right? Here we are creating an instance of Express. Here is the get method for what? All right, so get method from homepage. My guess is when we run this, it's going to come back with an empty array. I don't know for sure, but let's try it. So let's save this. Right mouse click here. And let's get bash. Now I didn't put in an npm init. I didn't do basically anything here. So I'm just going to say node app.js. All right. And oh, remember, we didn't add Express. And I've done that on more than one occasion. So let's go in and add that right now. And as long as we're going to the trouble of adding Express, let's do our npm init, but let's do the shortcut. So we'll put a -y there and we'll hit enter. And it's going to create this for us. Notice there's no author. There's no description. All right, but it's totally fine for what we're doing. Now let's npm I express. Now we've got Express. And you'll notice again in here, we've now got our node modules, our package.json, and our package lock.json. So let's clear and do a node app.js. That should work now. We should get our message down here. Well, I thought we had a console.log. Maybe we didn't. All right, let's take a quick look. Oh, that's once we get here. All right, so we're on 8080. Let's do this. We've got a console.log here. I guess it'll be fine. So let's localhost 8080 and hit enter. It's spinning around thinking about it, but do I have anything here now? There is my empty object. All right, that's representing the request object, so that's it. And this is still spinning around. All right, I'll let that play for a while. It says the object is filled with a property for each query parameters. If there are none, it's an empty object. You already saw that. This makes it easy to iterate through it using a for loop. We can still do this. So we should be able to take this. It's still going to be empty. But let's come back in here. Where are we here? And rather than console.logging it like this, let's put in a for loop. It should still be empty, I believe. But the point is, we shouldn't get an error message. So we got here app.listen 8080. See if we can put it on server running on port. So let's do a const here. Const port equals 8080. And we'll put here port on port. Let's do that and see what we get. All right, so let's see. We've got example amp listing on port 4000. That's old. All right, so let's stop the run here. And we can start it again. Now, one thing I have absolutely no idea if this is possibly the reason they're doing this. 8080 is a port that's used in a lot of things run on there. I don't know why they use that, although a lot of them seem to. I'm going to change this from 8080 to 8000. And I'm going to save this. Then I'm going to go into here. I'm going to stop the run. And let's put in nodemon too. So let's npm I -d nodemon. All right, now I've got nodemon. We've got our node app.js. In fact, I don't even want to do that. Let's change our package.json file. So we will add what we have been doing before. So I'm going to put in here start npm app.js dev node mon app.js. There we go. That should work. All right. In fact, I don't want to do that. So npm run dev. All right, it says I'm missing the script dev. Didn't think so, but let's check. Don't think I saved this after I put it in. That's one of my many problems. So let's go back here and let's go back. We'll remove this. I'm not going to save. And I'm going to go back in here and I'm going to open this with code, which is what I should have done to begin with. So there's my package.json. I've got my start. I've got my dev. And this should just be node. So that should be okay. Got Express and nodemon. Now we did come back in here and try to put in that for loop, even though I believe, again, it should be empty. But let's grab that. So I'm just going to comment this out for right now and put in that. There we go. And we will come in and try this. npm run dev. All right. Not getting my message, which I thought I'd get. I thought I put that in as a console.log or as a server listen. But let's see. Looks like it is up and running anyway. So let's do a local host on 8000. And my guess is I'm still going to get an empty object here. I'm not getting anything. Well, you saw what happened. Nothing. And what I thought would happen here, get rid of some of these things that are running. All right. Console.log. Let's see if we uncomment this one here, if it does still give us a blank object. And this one here I'll comment out for now. Okay, oh, and that should be 8000, not 8080. That would probably help. Well, and I came in here and did this, remember? Const, let's make it a capital, port equal we'll put process.env.port or 8000. And then we're going to do an app.listen on port, and we will put our message in here. Server up and running on port okay. All right. So file save. It says the site can't be reached. That's okay for right now. Let's go back into here. The app crashed. All right. Unhandled error event. Server up and running on port 8000, so it was there. It gave me an error, and it said ENOT not found. Let's double check. Let's take a look at that. All right. Const express equal require express. That's fine. App equals express. App.get express. Request.query. Port. Shouldn't matter if I make this upper or lowercase. I've seen it both ways. Looks like everything is in there. Save. Nope, it's definitely breaking. Well, I tried to just make it easier for everybody, and I made it harder. Well, it's pretty obvious it's breaking here, and I'm not sure why. Okay, it is coming up, host name, server up and running on that port. It's starting it here, but there's something that's making it break. So, error event instance at. Let's call back. Not found. I'm just trying to figure out where the error is in here, so let's first try to comment this line out. It's not there. Maybe it doesn't like the way I'm writing this. I don't know. Process.env.port, that should be fine. Let's do this. Let's change this to 5555. Still is breaking. Oh, well, that wouldn't help, would it? Let's get rid of all this. All right, well, there's something in there that's making it break, and I'm not sure what, but that's okay. All right. So now when we go back here and we look, and I go out to localhost 5555, and hit enter. Now, is anything magical going to happen? Well, sooner or later, I should hopefully get my empty object in there. Sorry about that. That was a waste of everybody's time. All right. You can access individual properties as well. So when you do the request.query, basically here we're asking for everything. All right, and here we're asking for everything, but we can ask for individual parameters. How to retrieve the post query parameters using Express. As it says here, post query, remember the difference between post and get. All right. Get is basically you are grabbing something. All right. Post typically is when you're sending something to the server using a form. If the data was sent as JSON using content type application JSON, this is really important what you send for the content type. It's more or less what you're doing is you're providing a filter for the system so it's understanding what kind of data to be expecting. All right. So if that's the case, you will use the express.json middleware. It says there if it was sent using this, basically, what is that doing? Well, it's sending it through a form, so basically through an HTML form. If that's the case, you need the express URL encoded. One thing that's weird about that, typically I've seen this on one line. It doesn't seem to matter if you put extended true or extended false in there. It tends to work either way. In both cases, you can access the data by referencing it from request.body. Note, older versions required the use of the body parser. This is no longer the case as of about 5 years ago, but you'll still see a lot of code in there that is going to have that. In other words, that it'll be using body parser. All right, sending a response. How to send a response back to the client using Express. Okay, it says in the hello world example, we use the response.send to send a simple string and then close the connection. All right. In fact, technically, to really close the connection in here, rather than a response.send, you'd probably put a res.end in there. If you pass in a string, it sets the content type to text HTML. If you pass in an object or an array, it sets it to JSON. Send automatically sets the content length and it also automatically closes the connection. All right. An alternative way to send the response without any body is to use the response.end, but you can put something in there too. All right. Use the response.status to basically set the status. You've already seen that 404. And there's a shortcut with send status, so you can do it like this. All right, so these two are equivalent. All right. When you listen for connections on a route in Express, the callback function will be invoked on every network call with a request object instance and a response object instance. Okay? Here it says we use the response.send method, which accepts any string. You can send JSON to the client by using response.json. What we're going to get into in here is we will be working with JSON. This is an example of what JSON is going to look like. So in other words, this is an object. Inside of this object, we've got an array that starts here and ends here. The name of the array is tasks, and it has two objects inside of it. There's one object, there's another object. This is a to-do list type of thing. All right. It has been my experience that we don't have to worry too much in here with what we're doing with working with cookies. All right. But there is, as it says, a response.cookie method for manipulating cookies. Please remember that a cookie is basically, it's a simple text file that is sent from the server to the browser. All right. And there's different things you can add in here when you want the cookie to expire, etc. You can read the stuff in here if you're so inclined. All right. What I'm going to do, just so you know, I'm going to finish this. I'm going to go through it. We're about a quarter of the way through. But when I'm done, I'm going to go through two different examples. I'm even going to show you where I got the examples from, and I want to run through them with you. And hopefully that'll do a much better job than probably what I'm doing right now. All right. Okay. You can access all the ATT or the HTTP headers using the request.headers property. Or you can grab it, use and just put in there basically one thing, all right, to find out information. All right. No idea if we tried this, if it would work or not. We can though. Now what should have happened is this should have stopped, and it did, and then restarted. All right. So if we go back here again to localhost 5555 and we refresh, of course you have to spell localhost right, and we hit enter. It's going to sit and spin for a while. But notice this is the information that we get back, so you can see all of it. The local host, all right, there's different stuff in there. The platform that we're using, the user agent, which is basically some browser information, and we can grab any bit of that we're interested in grabbing. All right. this is still spinning around. I'm not sure why, but it is. You can change any HTTP header using the response.set. All right. Now, it says there's a shortcut for the content header. We're going to look at this in the second example, Express example, that we're going to do in just a bit. So if that you find that confusing, just hold off on it for a bit. How to redirect to other pages server side. Redirects are common in web development. You use a redirect to do so. All right, and I've given you this example before, but just so you see it. Where I've gone out there and I have typed in java.sun.com, which used to be the main homepage for Java, but since it's been bought by Oracle, there's a permanent redirect in there that's going to move me to oracle.com/java/technology. So that's an example of a redirect. All right. This is going to, right here, when we start talking about routing and we go into the MVC pattern, this will be one of the most important parts, in my opinion, of the class. Routing, as it says, is the process of determining what should happen when a URL is called, and also which parts of the application should handle a specific request. All right, so the process of determining what should happen when a URL is called. Okay, so right here with this app.get, this is expecting that we're going to be calling something here. This is what's going to be passed, and this is what's going to end up being called. So it says if you send a request to uppercase test, you'll get test in the body of the response. Why? Because we asked for the uppercase value right there. You can use regular expressions to match multiple paths with one statement, and hopefully by the time we get to this, I will have at least gone back and reviewed regular expressions with you. All right, this is a decent place to stop. We're about a third of the way through here. So I'm going to stop on cores, and I will pick it up in the next lecture.